why are you so close to me? This is a threat. When in actuality, they're just from a culture where it's much more socially acceptable to be a lot closer to people because you don't have that perceived expectation of external space. I think one of the most important pieces is going to be the most difficult, which is understanding that you don't understand every culture that's around you.
Coming to you from the 80/20 Conflict Management Headquarters in Edmonton, Alberta, this is the Timeline of Self-Defense with your host, Randy King.
What is up, Internet? Welcome to the Timeline of Self-Defense podcast. Yeah, it's still a podcast. We've just stolen the pacing from a late night show because safety tips tend to go down a little bit better with a few laughs. This is all built around my self-defense model, the same one that's in my book, The Timeline of Self-Defense, coming out May 5th from YMAA Publishing. You're basically watching the second edition happen in real time as I bring experts in from every stage of the timeline, before, during, and after. For the full interview, all 10 of my questions, my feedback, the outtakes, and unedited conversations, or to book me for a keynote, conference, martial arts workshop, or self-defense program, head to randykinglive.com. Everything you need, including my socials, is right there. Now, let's kick off Red Flags and Reality. It's time for Red Flags and Reality. Welcome back to Red Flags and Reality, the part of the show where we take the headlines you might scroll past and turn them into lessons that can actually keep you safer. Tonight, we're in the before stage of the timeline with Instructor Bensei talking about prevention through cultural and behavioral intelligence. This phase is all about staying out of the fight by knowing the culture, behavior, and the environment around you. First up is Kickstart Kids, a martial arts character development program founded by Chuck Norris in Texas. That's right, the Chuck Norris. This isn't just a karate class, it's a no-cost program taught in middle and high schools that focuses on discipline, respect, and moral character. These kids learn more than just blocks and kicks. They learn behavioral intelligence, how to read conflict, stand tall, and make better choices before things escalate. Prevention starts with who you are, and Kickstart Kids builds that foundation early. Next is the Red Brigade Trust in India. Started by survivors of sexual assault who understood that traditional training didn't fit their lives, they built a program rooted in their cultural context. These women don't just learn techniques, they learn from each other, in their own neighborhoods, using tools and cues they recognize in daily life. That is cultural intelligence. This program shows us that self-defense isn't one size fits all. It's most effective when designed within the world you walk in. Then there's Guardian Girls International. Active across 15 countries, they combine martial arts with empowerment training that adapts to each culture. Learn not only to defend themselves physically, but to stand up emotionally and socially within their own community. When cultural norms are embraced, self-defense becomes holistic. It's safety, identity, and agency all in one. Studies of empowerment-based self-defense programs show they do more than teach physical defense. They boost confidence, assertiveness, situational awareness, and most importantly, they reduce the risk of assault. These programs are tailored to feelings and behavior, not just muscle. That's prevention powered by both mind and culture. The takeaway, prevention isn't about stronger kicks, it's about smarter choices. When you understand the rules of the environment you're in, when you know the culture and the behavioral cues, you can avoid the fight entirely. That's real self-defense. True safety begins long before danger. It begins with awareness, context, and connection. Train your mind, respect your culture, and you may never have to throw a punch. Now let's get to our guest. My guest today knows what it takes to make self-defense education reach the masses. You might know him as Instructor Bensei with over 1 million followers on TikTok, but behind the viral content is someone with serious knowledge about keeping people safe. Today we're talking about the before phase of self-defense, and he's got a ton to share. Benjamin Kennedy, welcome to the show. Let's jump in. How does cultural context change how we read threats? And how can someone get better at reading those cues when they're outside their comfort zone?
I am so happy to be here. What a great question. If I'm someone that's used to being in, I hear this a lot about Brooklyn, New York, stuff like that. If I'm used to people having conversations just loudly while you're yelling at people, I'm not yelling at you, I'm just talking, right? I'm just talking. It's not anything in particular, right? So if I'm a part of a family or a culture or a just general area where conversations happen at a louder pitch rate, tone, or volume than I'm used to, then I might start to feel those sort of features coming in, and I might think that that is an assault or an attack because I'm used to an environment where Everybody talks politely and kindly, quietly. This is an even-keeled conversation, and the timbre of my voice stays low because if I don't have to yell, I shouldn't yell, right? And yelling is a sign of frustration or discontent, and I'm not right now. I'm just having a genuine conversation about, do you know where this bus stop is located? I can't seem to find it, right? And understanding that when I'm having these sort of conversations, when I'm experiencing the world around me, watching things like body posture. If I am from, let's say, India, right, where there's a much denser population, there's much less expectation of personal space in a much more crowded and constantly crowded area that has already been established as such. So if I'm dealing with, I don't know, a big city block, and let's say we're used to having about 6 to 8 feet in between all of us as we're walking up and down the street, when someone gets within 2 feet of you, your spidey senses go off and you go, why are you so close to me? This is a threat. When in actuality, they're just from a culture where it's much more socially acceptable to be a lot closer to people because you don't have that perceived expectation of external space. I think one of the most important pieces is going to be the most difficult, which is understanding that you don't understand every culture that's around you. You understand your culture, and you probably understand it well enough to navigate the space that you're in on any given day. And if you don't, there's therapy for that. But one of the things that's really important in this is making sure that, I got him. One of the things that's really important in this is making sure that you understand first and foremost that a sense of curiosity about other people's cultures and experiences will only benefit you in life. So attacking this from a sense of, and I say attacking because I mean do this with fervor. Go, explore, learn, and you can still do this in a knowledge-hungry way, but be curious. Instead of thinking you understand the world around you as it is, and obviously you've got enough to navigate life, so you're doing great, think, man, what don't I know? What am I not aware of? And then start looking. You can do that on the internet. I have to tell you, the internet is a really good tool to use when you understand how to use it properly and understand that it's going to give you what you look for, but maybe not what you need. And then this also encourages you to go to larger density, more densely populated areas and make friends in those spaces and say, hey, I don't know enough about this culture, but I would like to learn. First off, I want to make sure I'm not offensive as I do this, right? And even just saying those words, like, I apologize, I am uneducated about this, and I would like to be, is a great way to lower those walls immediately and let them know that you are there as a student to their tutelage, and that's extremely important. But you go to places where maybe you don't know the culture, maybe you don't know sort of the ideals or ideologies. And as long as it is somewhere with a little bit of pre-research to make sure you're not walking into something real stupid that you shouldn't, as long as it's somewhere that it is safe to do so, go explore, go learn, go do whatever you can to be the smartest person you can be. And I think that that helps tremendously with navigating these cultural difficulties that might lead to some instances where you're breaking up a non-fight.
Awesome. Great answer. So you mentioned earlier you've trained and worked across the world. You've had the ability to go other places. Can you think of a moment of culture shock that happened on a trip that then reframed your thoughts on personal protection?
Absolutely. Nothing super stark or scary. I'm very fortunate to be kind-hearted and articulated. So when I navigate situations, I come at them from a standpoint of, I just don't know. I know me, but especially if I'm in a space where I don't know the language, I don't know the customs, I come with a bowed head and an open hand. I am looking for knowledge because I'm the foreigner here. And I do not expect you to respect what I look for in a cultural situation in an environment like this, because this is your home. And I'm aware I'm coming there. One of the big ones that came to me was I've gotten the chance to visit Ireland quite a few times at this point. It's absolutely gorgeous. So fantastic. But one of the things that I found is I yap a lot. Who would have thought, right? I'm a yapper. I'm a professional yapper. And I'm a very kind person. I automatically reach out toward people to ask them how their day is going. What are they thinking? What are they doing? And instead of asking in this sort of cursory, sort of glance type of way of kindness and courtesy, I genuinely mean it. So in Ireland, when I was around some of these sort of more rural areas and with some farmers, some older families, stuff like that, I say, hi, how are you? I understand that I learned later that as an American, we do that, but don't really mean it, right? We say, hey, how are you? How's it going? And their expected response coming back should be, I'm good. How are you? It doesn't matter if they've just had their dog pass away that day. It doesn't matter if they're in the process of a lengthy divorce or they've just had an amazing day where they just won the lottery, right? I'm good. How are you? Right? So because I very clearly sounded like an American and acted like one, it was perceived that my asking of the well-being of the people around me in that space was more performative than anything else. And what I got to learn in that instance from the person that I was there with at the time was that in Ireland, it's not that people are more rude because I didn't hear any of them asking the same things. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? It's more that if you are kind, there's no need to perform to show as though you are. You just are. And I don't need to bother you by talking to you about your day because I know at the end of the day, I don't really care and you don't really care. So let's just go ahead and go about our way. And it was something very interesting to me that I had to learn was it felt like I was encroaching on other people's space and their day and sort of forcing myself into it, when really all I meant was, hey, how are you? I would love to hear how your day is going. And it was really, really fascinating to sort of get that nudge that let me know, hey, even the kind niceties that you do, that you genuinely do from the goodness of your heart because you really want to know how people are, can also be perceived as something that is uncomfortable for many people around the world because it's just not what they're used to. And I checked it and I moved on and I realized that giving them a slight nod and moving on about my way was not rude, that was common courtesy. And it helped tremendously.
Most people, when they talk about awareness, they pretty much just say, look around. How do you change that in your teaching, and how do you redefine it so people understand it's not just keeping your head on a swivel?
Gosh, I'm so happy to be here. So many good questions. So one of the things that I say the collective, we, KC&T, Kennedy Consulting and Training, that teaches self-defense, that I teach self-defense with, one of the things we talk about fairly consistently is we talk about situational awareness. And when we talk about situational awareness, it's very easy for it to come into the exact same field for most people. It's, hey, where's the door? Are you wearing shoes that fit? Right? Like that doesn't. So what we're really talking about is you have situational awareness in three different categories, right? You've got the environment itself, which is what most people consider. That is looking for additional exits. That's everything from checking the temperature. That's, all of the stuff that you would genuinely consider in the space around you. Then you have the people in that environment and your relation to them. Now, that can be everything from a tangential sort of distance measurement to what is your relation to them in this specific scenario? Are they the person that is working the counter and you are the customer? Right? Are they your boss and you're the employee? Are they a distant friend you haven't seen in a long time? Right? What are they to you both socially, or I should say socially, emotionally, and in this instance, physically as well? And then you've got your internal environment, which is the one that I think the most people just don't touch on to almost a criminal degree, right? Because I can have the best situational awareness in the world. I can understand, that every puddle is a reflection. I can know that the difference between the different types of glass on the windows and know that those chairs are bolted down, those chairs aren't. I know where the different exits are. I can know all of the people in the room and my relationship to them. And yet, if I wake up in the morning and I wake up to the sound of my cat puking on my blanket, and then as I try and roll out of bed to avoid the puke, I step in the puke that was already there because they puked earlier and I didn't hear it. And then as I'm cleaning off my feet, I realize my alarm hasn't gone off and I am almost going to be late for work. And I realize I don't have enough time to get food. And when I don't eat in the morning, I'm hangry. And all of these things start happening. It doesn't matter how good you are at all the other stuff, because that will inform your entire day, right? If I wake up like that, and then I have someone's birthday party that I'm going to, I'm going to get there and go, happy birthday. And what I really mean is happy birthday. I'm so sorry I can't be happy for you. I've walked in cat puke, I was late to work, and I'm hungry, right? So I need to understand my internal environment, I would argue first. I need to know when I wake up what kind of day I'm having. I need to be able to check back in with myself constantly throughout the day, right? Because now we get back to someone says, hey, how are you? And if my thoughts are, oh my gosh, they're really genuinely asking how I am that day, that's wonderful, I might start talking to them. But if I've had a really cruddy day and they say, how are you? And my first thoughts are, they don't really care, they're just asking to be polite. And what comes out of my mouth is, why do you care? I have taken a situation that could have been positive and started to make it negative. And something that I get from Bill, my father, who will be in one of these other podcasts. You guys will get to meet him. He's a great guy. I'm a little biased. But one of the things that one of his, I believe, coaches told him was, there's not a single situation in life that you can't make worse.
So very true. I said it in an episode a while ago, but it bears repeating. I like to tell people sometimes the flaw in your self-defense strategy is you.
Oh my God. Goes on a shirt. That's so good. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, and that's what I would say, when it comes to the situational awareness stuff, right? It's always going to be significantly more than just looking around, making sure you check your surroundings. Where did you park? What time of day is it? Because that stuff's kind of been drilled in. It's the larger pieces that all work together like this fine puzzle that really give you the full picture that you need. And that's what I would say about it.
Awesome. As a fan of your stuff, I'm a big fan. I'm always going to support you no matter what. I believe you've said the environment always speaks for people do. Do you remember saying that? Okay.
I don't, but that sounds smart.
Yeah, so you definitely said that. That's what I remember hearing. So if that's true, what should we be listening to in our surroundings?
Oh my goodness. When it comes to listening to the surroundings, first things first, easy and topical with how it's been lately. Pay attention to the temperature. I know that sounds silly, but pay attention, right? What that is going to inform is the general level of discomfort for the people around you, right? And unless you're in somewhere where that temperature is expected and standard, which is where we get back to some of those cultural norms and stuff like that, right? People are uncomfortable in that instance, which means that's going to start informing all of their other work. So I'm just paying attention to things just as much as the temperature itself. I'm paying attention to the environment around me. If there are a lot of people and everybody seems fairly happy, it's probably a safe space to be in. If there are very few people and those people are getting fewer and fewer by the second as they navigate their way away from the space that you're walking into, it might be worth taking a second to pause and go, why are so many people leaving? As you walk probably the same direction as them, right? So I am able to check the environment around me in a multitude of ways. And I think that that's super important. If I walk into a space and I'm unfamiliar with the area and I walk in and you can hear a pin drop, not like I've ever had that happen before, being a brown male, right? You walk in and the entire room goes quiet. Interesting. Maybe this isn't a space I want to occupy, or maybe I am just abnormal to be there. Something about a new presence in the space has changed the dynamic, and I have to pay attention to that. Because that happens sub big brain thought, right? That is super quick. I forget which parts of the brain that activates, but that is something that happens without overlying thought. That is very subconscious. So when you notice subconscious changes in the people in your environment, that's happening faster than even they can probably articulate to you. And that's some really cool stuff to pay attention to, because as much as some of us don't like it and we would just want to sit at home and read, we're all social creatures. So being able to read the feel of the room as you walk in is extremely important, right? Talking about the specific spaces themselves, right? I'm somewhere where the sidewalks look freshly paved, where the roads don't have any potholes, where the signs on the doors are adorable and welcoming, everything is freshly painted. This is probably a fairly affluent area, or it just got a makeover. This is probably one of the areas where I'm probably going to be safer, depending on who you are and what you are doing in that space. Obviously, this will always come with the caveat of, please know the rest of the information in the scenario. If I'm somewhere where the sidewalks are cracked, there are potholes everywhere, instead of having glass windows, there are glass windows covered with metal mesh. That teaches me something about the space that I'm in, that people feel less safe. First off, it's not getting taken care of, right, on a daily basis, because otherwise those things would not be there. Second, when it comes to the windows, looking at sort of the doors and the structure of the environment that I'm in, that tells me that things are armored. Things are being protected in a way that you would only have there if you didn't expect the common courtesy and decency of people to not go smashing windows, right? That's really important. And it's a lot of stuff that registers on a no duh level for some of us self defense nerds, right? We're like, oh, I can taste that the air is different. I should be somewhere else, right? But most people get that. And most people actually have access to it, but they kind of just walk over top of it. They ignore their own red flags. And I think that as long as you are being mindful in the area that you're in, and you are using a critical brain to put some of these pieces together, you're going to get an answer that will at least help to keep you safer as long as you listen to it. So pair that with the fact that I am a brown-skinned male, and some people would look at me and immediately assume they know me in a way that leads to a less than positive connotation for them, which makes my heart sad. I wish them well, and I hope to be the bridge for them, but that's a different conversation. I think that understanding all of these things is what helps me to be safer, right? And then you pair that with the fact that I can camouflage and blend myself in, given the particular environment. I definitely have access to a couple of red hats just in case I need to go somewhere where I feel really, really unsafe, right? Because that says, hey, look, I'm part of the community too. We're good. And I keep myself up to date on some of the talking points that I hear so that I can at least parrot and mimic those, even if I don't genuinely believe them, but I can have a conversation that is nuanced about it. And I think that as we zoom that back out as a self-defense instructor view, right? Giving that information to your students is nothing but a superpower, right? Letting them understand that I see you as Betsy or Javon, right? I see you as this person, and I know you, I've learned your history, we've talked together, but here's the problem. People thin slice. People see you, they take some information from what they see of you and the first instances of interactions they have with you, and then they pair that against all of the stuff that they've already seen from things like you, because humans are designed for recognition. It's kept us alive for a long time. The red berry during this time of year isn't poisonous, so I can eat it, right? It's super important. So understanding that people operate off of pattern recognition and previously held knowledge that they pull to the forefront, and giving them the understanding that it's not really about you, it's about them. But I need to understand them to better keep myself safe. So giving them access to the tools and saying, hey, you're going to be in this particular scenario or this situation, right? This is a very religious heavy household for a religion that you're not very familiar with. So here are some do's and don'ts. Here are some things to not step on. And here are some things that might be safe to talk about. And giving them access to those tools basically leads them to being in a significantly safer space because they can operate in accordance with the cultural norms of the area. And then this also gets us back to that curiosity, right? Because if I am curious about how people see me, right? I am curious about the environment I'm going to be in. That removes the stigma about what they are saying about me because I can now distance myself from that. I know who I am as Ben. I am curious about what they see, but what they see is not Ben. It is a part of Ben. It is not the whole. And then I can remove the ouch and the sort of ego damage that I might take from that to make it safer for me to explore.
How do you teach people to trust their instincts when cultural rules are different from what they're used to?
Fantastic question. So one of the things that I would say is, when I talk to my students about something like this, I say, so first off, are you alive? And they go, barely. And I'm like, ha ha ha, very funny, I understand. Right, are you alive? And they're like, yeah. Like, okay, have you made it through every day of your life to get up to this point? Yeah. Do you think, even if it's a scary day for you tomorrow, do you think you'll probably make it till tomorrow? And even with the uncertainty, we have a whole bunch of information back behind it to back it up. So here's what that really means. That means you're good at understanding situations and avoiding the bad ones while living in the good ones. Congratulations, you're a perfectly functional human. Now, fretting about the things that you don't understand or what you're worried about is probably not going to get you anywhere. It might make things worse. So here's what we're going to do instead. What you're going to do is when you get there to wherever you're going, you are going to sit and watch. You're going to pay attention to what's going on. You're going to notice the proxemics. You're going to notice the pitch, rate, tone, and volume of conversations. And I just want you to notice as much information as you can. If you need to keep notes on it, that's completely okay too. Just make sure that you're not directly mean-mugging someone and staring at their face while you jot something down, because that might make comfortable and comfortable. But at the end of the day, what you're really looking to do is gather as much intel as you can to help inform you. So once we've done those two pieces, we're going to do everything that we see, but less. Okay? That seems to be the safest bet so far. If everybody talks really, really loud when they're having a conversation, it's okay to dial down on that a little bit. Not a lot. Think n-1, not n-5. Right? I want to be just a little less. If everybody's standing like chest to chest when they have their conversations, give yourself a little bit more space, right? And just understand that everything that you're seeing that's being done, as long as you have documented and paid attention properly, you can do a little bit less of, and it's probably going to be okay. At worst, they're going to think you're just a little weird. So that's fine. And it's okay for them to think you're a little weird. It's better that they don't think of you as a little bit of a threat. That gets ickier. So keeping those three big pieces in mind, that's really the information that I would end up giving most of my students is please pay attention. Please understand that you are not the leader of this situation, but you have survived all the way up into this point on your gut instincts and the knowledge you have about the spaces around you. And you've done a pretty good job going to places that you've probably never been before and still surviving. Last part, whatever you see, just do a little bit less once you've paid attention.
If you could sum up this entire 40-minute conversation to one simple thing the listeners should take away from all of the very intelligent things you just said, what would that be?
From the bottom of my heart and the depth of my soul, do not stigmatize yourself when you are wrong, and be curious without searching for an end point.
Let's wrap this all up with takeaways. All right, here's what I'm taking away from my conversation with Instructor Bensei. First, cultural context changes everything. Something that feels threatening in your world might be totally normal somewhere else. Knowing that could keep you from escalating something that wasn't a problem. Second, curiosity is one of the best tools you can carry. You can't know every culture, but if you approach differences with genuine interest and humility, you'll make allies faster than enemies. Third, real situational awareness isn't just looking around. It's reading the environment, the people in it, and yourself. If you don't check your own mood and mindset, you might misread what's in front of you. And finally, when you are in a space that isn't your own, blend in by doing just a little less of what's around you. It keeps you from standing out as a threat while letting you be yourself. And don't forget to join us next week for the during phase with my guest, Casey Keckheiser.